paleontologist there. But he's the most dedicated paleontologist I've ever seen.
We've got a lot of that. You know,
Sure
they
do.
keep discovering new critters.
Yeah, that's right.
So, but
Yeah, Lee was a good guy. I worked with him a lot. I liked Lee a lot. A heck of a way to have somebody fall off a ladder.
I
Oh,
didn't hear about that. What happened?
That's how he died. A ladder gave way. He was up on it over the weekend, and it went backwards, and he hit his head on
Oh
rock or
man,
stone, and was dead in a couple of days. That's what happened.
no, I didn't hear that. And I
okay.
think the last time I saw him was a couple of years ago, and at one of the conferences.
Yeah, it
I,
was a real tragedy.
yeah, it was
He,
Oh
he
man,
he was accomplishing so much.
about 2012 or something. I think it was when he died.
yeah.
Brian knew Lee as well. Uh,
I
Brian is with the survey here. Carrie used to be with the Utah survey and worked with Lee Allison.
Oh, is that who you were talking about? Was Lee?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I knew Lee. I really enjoyed working with him. And
So in my research for this thing, I ran across a couple of papers he'd written and you know, work he'd done, regulatory work he'd done, and everything else. But I got a kick out of teasing him from going from the Utah Geological Survey. Now this is almost, geez, 30 years ago.
And
And
Thorwall,
Jim,
and
Chairman
I said, how?
Thorwall.
Jim, it's time for our to start. Have
Yeah,
we
sorry,
started the?
it is 10:01. However, I don't think we have quorum. This is Whitney Flood. I only see Commissioner Nations and Chairman Thorwall on the line.
No, we don't have a quorum yet.
Yeah,
Can you reach out
so
to the others?
it's not being recorded yet. It is being live stream. So if you wanted to keep talking, you could, but just wanted to
Okay.
let you know.
Sorry
I
about
have
that.
not started the recording, but the live stream is going right now.
Anyway, Brian, Carrie, go ahead and continue.
No, I was teasing him about going to Kansas. I said, how are you going to do geology there? The general consensus there, the Earth is only 6,000 years old. And how are you going to translate that? And got a kick out of batting that around for a while.
yeah, that's a good one. I think I didn't know him well enough to tease him uh, about that kind of stuff, but I probably would have teased him for coming from Kansas to Arizona because anyone trying to take on Arizona geology is crazy just by, you know, all the stuff you have to know. So Lee was great. He really was a champion and a pioneer of looking at AI now and machine learning. He really, I think he was thinking in those terms back then, and
Jim,
he's kind of ahead of his time in that regard.
good morning. Just a second. I've got Jim Ballard on it, and somehow he said he and some of the other commissioners are stranded on another Zoom channel.
Think several of us, Tina, like what's a there. I think we all went on
Yeah.
site and ended up somewhere different. So I guess
Yeah, Tina is on a different one as well. They went through the website. Could you just could could staff send out a link to everybody to somehow the website and what we've got are two different things.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was leaving messages. So we have, okay, well, that's interesting. Considering it's the same
Just a second, Jim.
link and agenda each time. Okay, let me go see if I can figure it out on what is going on. So they said
Okay.
they said they went through the website and that's
Use the one
why.
in the link. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm getting a phone call. Hold on one second. I think it's one of the commissioners. Hold on, please.
Taylor, that's a legal question here. It seems like our website link and the link we've been emailed may be different. How should we proceed?
Is the link still the correct link on the public agenda on the website?
That's the one that
Let me take a look.
I have the agenda pulled up. Let me try it and see.
Yeah, because if it's not the proper link on the website, that would probably be a problem.
Okay, well, let me pull up. I don't know if it'll let me go into two meetings. That's the problem, but let me see.
So I went to the link on our meets or on our calendar, and it sent me to the website. So that's the one that we were on before.
On the Google Meets, Tina, because that's the same one that's used. So let me go check.
Yeah, I logged on using the one that was on our meeting announcement.
UWGK.1. Okay. So let me go to the website and see what it says. Well, I can't go check it because then I'd have to stop this one, and I don't obviously want to do that.
well, based on what Tina said, Taylor, there's and what Jim Ballard said, it's taking him to a different room.
Yeah.
Yes, when you click the join on meeting date / time, it looks like it is a different meeting. Let me see if the agenda page.
The agenda one works. That's how I got into this room, is through the link on the agenda, but the link on the actual page is the one that took you to the different room.
Okay. And comms is supposed to do that. So I will make a point from now on to double check both of those. It's never been a problem before, so sorry about that.
So what does that do to our public meeting announcement and the meeting itself?
I think since it's on the correct link is on the agenda, I think we're okay. But it is not ideal.
So let me call Ballard and tell him to go to the agenda and to log in that way.
Let me check with one of my colleagues and see if they have a different take on it.
Okay.
Sorry about this, everyone.
Yeah, it's never been a problem. We use the same standard one, so I don't know what happened when comms uploaded it this time. So I apologize as well.
We also should reach out to Commissioner Conway and to Fire Robin.
Yeah, I'm looking to see if I can figure out. Let me pull up their phone numbers. I'm gonna mute so you can don't hear me talking on the.
David, good to see you.
Good to see you as well, Frank.
Okay, I think we're okay since the correct meeting link was on the agenda. Is it possible to have someone looking at the other Zoom call in case other people join the call throughout the meeting and they could be directed to this one instead?
Wendy? I
Well,
think
I was just talking to her and she is going to resend out the correct link to the people on the mailing list, but you're right, that won't cover people that stumble across the wrong one on the website directly.
Hello, Jim. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning. How are you today, Dale?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Been doing fine, but getting a lot of rain up here.
Blaze, usually things go a little bit smoother than this, to say the least.
Yeah, so hi, this is Wendy. Conway was late anyway, so he is coming on to the right meeting and we see that Ballard is here. I'm just going to call Fire Robin and then we should be set.
There was one other question while you were gone.
Yes.
Can we check the other meeting room to direct anybody that's there here if from the public, if there is anyone?
Well, if there is an ADQ staff or state land staff that could do that for me, unfortunately, I do not have a backup today, who normally handles that for me. If I leave, the meeting will not work.
Okay. Is there
So let me
anybody
give
that
Fire Robin a call, please.
It looks like Tina LePage is also in that other Zoom call.
she's in here now too.
Did you need to talk to me?
She's hiding right in front of
No
you.
problem.
Let me get on.
Again, apologies, everyone. We're having a few technical problems today.
Commissioner Conway is in the other Zoom meeting.
Commissioner Conway, welcome. You're on mute. You're on mute.
I apologize for being tardy.
Not a problem. We were having technical problems with that other.
Yeah, you're not the only one, Mike.
Ah, good to hear.
Should be
I can
just a
keep
few
the
more.
other Zoom page open and send this meeting link to anyone who joins.
Okay. Wendy, are we ready to go?
There should be a balloon. I'll come on with Fire Robin right now, and then we should be good to go. If you can give me
Okay.
1 more minute.
Let me know when he comes on and we'll get started. Have you started the recording? Welcome, Mr. Fire Rob, Commissioner Fire Robin. Good one. Good to have you on board.
All right.
Okay, are you gonna go ahead and
I'm going to start the
recording?
recording in just a minute.
Okay.
It is live stream, so we always have that. Okay, well, the recording is on and the live stream has been on, and looks like we have a quorum. Apologize and thank everybody for your flexibility and understanding today. Thank you.
It is Friday, October 10th at 10:18 a.m. and this meeting of the Arizona Oil and Gas Conservation Commission comes to order, and I apologize. We had technical issues and we're starting late today. I will start off with roll call and the conflict of interest. Commissioner Nations, are you here and do you have any conflict?
No, I'm here and no conflict.
Commissioner Fire Robin, are you here?
Here, no conflict.
Fantastic. Commissioner Conway, are you here?
I am, and I have no conflicts.
Fantastic. Commissioner Ballard, are you here?
I'm here and no conflicts.
Fantastic. And we have, who do we have from the representing us from the AG's office today?
Taylor Parmenter, Assistant Attorney General.
And who do we have from the Land Department?
David Haig, Arizona State Land Department.
Very good. Then we will move on to agenda item 2, Administrator Update by Samantha Roberts. Administrator Roberts, would you proceed, please?
Thank you, Chairman Thorwald. First item on the agenda is for plugged well markers. This is something that's been coming up as with the orphan well program, and when they're going out to abandon these wells, there's landowners that do not want an above ground marker and are requesting below ground markers. So Wendy, if you could pull it up. So I'm proposing to put on the application to plug and abandon number 3, which says if you're requesting a marker variance, provide details. So at that time, when we're approving the applications, the commission can approve the variance at the same time.
Commissioners, any comments?
This is Commissioner Nations. I think that's appropriate.
Any other comments? Do we have a motion to approve that change?
Also move.
Do we have a second?
This is Commissioner Ballard. I second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. And this is Chairman Thorwald. I also say aye. Motion approved. Administrator Roberts, do you want to proceed on to B?
Yes, sir. I do not have any updates on B. I can provide an update for C, oil and gas permitting budget update.
Please proceed.
The annual budget that the permitting part of oil and gas receives is from the Air Administration Fund, that we call it the APAF fund. We receive approximately $355,000 for this last fiscal year. Right now we're forecasted to be a little bit, approximately $12,000 over budget on that, and we've spent 86,000. And this is for staff and administration of the fund. The fund itself has taken in with one permit $25. So that's just wanted to provide an update on where we were at with the APAF.
Commissioners, is there any questions or comments? Hearing none, let's move on to 3, Orphan Well Program. Tina LePage.
I think we have a website.
Yes.
And permits update. Sorry, Commissioner.
Oh, you're
Chairman
right.
Thorwald, sorry.
Sorry, you're
D.
Please proceed. Sorry.
Yes. Yes, this is Wendy Flood, and I will be sharing with you all the website, the oil and gas website, over the last couple months here has been going through an overhaul with the transition and changing how we update our files and just how it looks, plus our GIS map and just old systems and software that are no longer being supported or working and upgrading it. So the efforts of our GIS staff have been pretty amazing, and we do have a change to how our permits and our wells look on our website. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to take a look at it, but first and foremost, I mean, this website was changed a couple months ago, just our homepage. You can see some of our neat, cool stuff there. But today I want to focus on our permits page, how that looks in regards to all the updates, and there's still more coming, but next meeting we should hopefully have a more kind of in-depth walking you through certain steps, but I wanted to show you what it looks like. Hopefully you have seen it recently. If you haven't, it should hopefully look a little different than it did last time with the branding, the color scheme, as well as what the map looks. It also is a little bit different on how you can see the how the wells are, the symbolism of the wells is a little bit different. You can see with these circles, we still have our database and well information at the bottom, which is, so you can still look for information that way. But how you search for a well is the same. You can search for a well up here in this top corner. You can type in a well number and it'll zoom to it just like it did last time. Something else that we have added that we, through our partners with Arizona State Land, is a couple years ago, the commissioners probably remember, and then also not only with the partners with state land, just in general with some other approvals that have been done, there was a 40-acre spacing of certain units that were granted. And so we have been able to label that on the website as well. So when you go over to this layer button, you'll see that we have oil and gas and we have potash, which is thank you to our state land partners, and our 40-acre spacing. So now that is on our website. In order to see it, because there's a lot going on, you do have to zoom in. I'm going to turn off the township and ranges here. But you can also do township and range, different layers you can see. But now when you're doing a search for wells, you can now see where our potash wells, we have the potash contours. And then we also have a layer for our 40-acre spacing. And so when it comes to reviewing wells or permitting wells, this can now be used. Another good feature is we do have at the bottom on this the spreadsheet at the bottom, if you are curious about potash wells, those are specifically labeled. And what's a nice update on the website is now when you hover down below on the spreadsheet where the wells are listed, like if you did a search or a filter, I don't know if you can see it, but it does highlight yellow on the map of what well you are looking at on the spreadsheet. Let me see if I can make this spreadsheet a little bit bigger. It's kind of hard to see it, and it's hard to grab it as well. Oh, I got the map here, but so that's another feature also, that when the spreadsheet is up and running and you are hovering over, say, like this well, 0217200028, you'll see it yellowed on the map. Also, the symbolism has changed for what is a potash well and then what's a regular oil and gas well, because you can see some of the potash wells are a solid color, and then our regular oil and gas wells are the half circle. So I wanted to just point out some of those advancements of the website and the web mapping and the oil and gas viewer, so that you can see the upgrades that have been going on. But just as a reminder, to see the potash contours, this purple is petrified natural forest. I can turn that off. You do need to zoom into our northeastern area. But to see how an actual well file looks now is if you click on a well, I'm just going to pick one. It will zoom into that well, but you also see up over on the left is the information about that well, different format, a little bit more information pops up in the viewer than it used to. And this is all the information you need in regards to that actual well. And you still have the option to click on the actual well file, which is this document link, which I'll do. And this also looks a little bit different. That's been upgraded. And this is all the information that we have on said well. So hopefully these are some positive changes for you. I know us as staff are excited about them, and we feel like it's definitely more user friendly on the public facing to give you more information up front. Any questions on this? And then, like I said, next meeting, we should have a video, kind of like a step-by-step video on more in-depth items on the website and how to navigate it a little bit better. But that's all oh, I'm sorry. I did have one. Any questions on this? Because I do have one more aspect of the website. Any other questions on kind of what you all see here? Oh, and then you can always, if you kind of forget where you are, you zoom too much, or you end up in India or something, you just hit this home button, and you always come right back to your page. Any questions on
Commissioners,
this
do you have any
aspect?
comments? Commissioner, do you have any comments or questions?
Well, this is Commissioner Ballard. I've gone into the website pretty deeply, and I like the link to the records that we normally get access to. I like what you did with the potash wells. And I guess we're going to talk about it in more detail next time, so I won't take a lot of time. But my one comment is I can't quite get over the little smiley face well symbol. So we can talk about that next time.
Okay.
Well, Commissioner Ballard, I am with you on that.
Okay.
Does it show the CO2 field?
No.
I don't think it does.
Well, it'll show the wells, but what we can easily add, and I have several examples. We found somebody found some nice contours there for the potash. There are several other maps that are in the public domain. A lot of them being stored with the Arizona Geologic Survey from old reports. We could add some new layers. One of which I can think of right off the bat is a structure map of the CO2 field.
I think that would be appropriate. What do you think, commissioners? Commissioner
This is
Nations?
Mike Conway. I think it sounds very good.
Good. Commissioner Nations, your thoughts? Commissioner Nations, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I had to leave for a few minutes. No, that looks good to me.
Okay, sounds good.
I
Well,
think,
well done.
Administrator Roberts has her hand up. Chairman Thorwald.
Go ahead, Administrator Roberts.
I just wanted to provide a clarification on the potash outline. That is an outline for drilling depth limitation from state land. So I wanted to point that out. And then also on the CO2 contours, if that is something that you do want on there, I can work to try to get that data and get it on there if that is something you want.
I think it would be appropriate.
Okay.
Is there any other questions?
Awesome. Okay, so then the other aspect of the website that I wanted to let everyone know about that's been updated as well is our resources page. I know it's been a long time coming, but we have been adding to our resources page some of our requested trainings as well as other presentations. So if you see here under the resources page up here at the top, you scroll down to the bottom and we have sections set aside for the trainings that have happened at the past commission meetings. That was at the request of the commission, the Halliburton trainings that took place, as well as the Texas Railroad Commission trainings. That's all of these right here. So they have been added to the website per your request.
Wonderful, thank you.
And if there is anything else that you all feel needs to be added, like to this resource page or anything, just let us know. But I wanted to let you know that that has been completed as well. So it's still a work in progress, but as we have substantial updates, I always try to share.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments? I have this is Chairman Thorwald. I have a couple comments. I want to just say well done, and I'm glad it's finally up and running. It looks good.
Thank you. I will pass that on to those that have been working very hard to get it done.
Is there any other further questions before we move to the next item on the agenda? Hearing none, we will move on to item 3 on the agenda, Orphan Well Program Update. Tina LePage presenting.
Yes. Good morning, Chairman Thorwald and Commissioners. This is Tina LePage with ADEQ. So far today, or as of today, we have plugged and abandoned 40 wells. We also, within our portfolio, we have roughly about 40 more that we have left to plug, and I believe of that, we have about 4 or 5 O'Neill wells. So we'll be working on that. We all know that the initial grant ends on December 31st of this year. What I will be doing is once the government shutdown has ended, I will be getting with the Department of Interior to request an extension on that. They have already said that it was appropriate and would probably be allowed, and I will ask for about at least 6 months to a year. So within that 40 wells that we have plugged, it has taken roughly about 9 months, getting about 1 per week roughly. So I think, 9 months or to a year would be great for an extension. We also have our formula grant. We have not touched the formula grant as yet. We need to spend down on our initial grant first, but we will be using that formula grant once we do finish the initial grant. So do we have any questions from the commissioners or Chairman Thorwald?
Commissioners, do you have any comments or questions?
I'm great.
Please make sure you identify yourself when you speak. I have this is Chairman Thorwald. I have a question or a comment. Given that we're going to have extra time, is there still any potential to be able to do monitoring in any of these holes through the Fed's monitoring equipment downhole?
That's a good question. I'm not exactly sure, but I can find out for you.
I don't know if those grants still exist or not, but they did. They had allocated quite a bit of money at one point.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, item A, 3A is good. Let's move on to 3B then. pre-approved wells.
So this is Tina LePage with ADEQ. We have Jim Grindley on the phone or on the meeting as well. And we also have our contractors, Tetra Tech and also Hydrogeochem. Jim, how about the wells if we have any other pre-approved wells that we'd like?
No, besides the ones that have been submitted, I don't believe we have any additional ones.
Okay.
Is there any questions on that? Then we will move on to 3C, applications to abandon.
So which
Commissioner Nations, I have a motion there. I move to approve the plugging and abandoning of those wells on that list, and I can read them off or not, whatever is necessary.
Not necessary. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Ballard. I have one small exception to Commissioner Nation's motion. It's the fourth well, I believe, the one ending in API number 05155. That would be agenda item 3CD. And I just want to comment or make a small addition. This what looks like it was well done, very accurate top of the Coconino. As I guess I mentioned before, the top is easy, the bottom is hard. So there's at least a little bit of sand below what people would probably call the Coconino, and it doesn't seem to be any reason to leave those uncovered, because the basic plan is to get down to I guess it's 750 feet, then do a plug one and a plug two, and there would be a little gap in between, as you can see there. It's only about 100 feet, and there are some sands in there. I just recommend that get all filled in, probably with plug two or however you want to do it, so that you basically have it cemented from the objective depth all the way to the surface.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Nations. I apologize. That should be added to my motion to approve the plugging and abandoning of the 05155 well. I had it written on my paper, but I didn't say it.
That would be Commissioner Nations, Chairman Thorwald. Would that be also putting it down, concrete down to the depth that Commissioner Ballard had suggested?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Commissioners, is there any discussion or comments on this before I ask for a second? Hearing none, do we have a second for that, Mr. Commissioner Nation's motion?
Hi, Robin, second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries.
This is Wendy Flood. For clarity of the contractor and the notes, can we just verify what the addition to the motion was for the plugging, just to make sure it's clear?
Commissioner Ballard.
Yeah, I'd be glad to do that for you. Of course, I can also follow up with an email if that would be more straightforward.
Well, go ahead and explain it right now for the record, because it's being recorded.
Okay, well, the plan was to get down to 750, then plug one was going to go up to 650. And then since the Coconino is a little bit shallower, the idea was to start again at 550 and then go to the surface. So basically all we need to do is take that bottom of that plug down to 650 to the surface, and it'll be pretty much continuous all the way from the 750 on up to the surface.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Comments? In hearing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, 3D, plugged wells. Who is presenting?
So we have 6 plugged wells. So do we have any questions on any of those? We have our contractors, Hydrogeochem and Tetra Tech, on the call. If we have any questions for any of them. This is Tina Lepage with ADEQ, sorry.
And Wendy Flood, I just want to clarify to the commissioners, item number DF was sent to you yesterday. It was inadvertently left off of the documents put on the website. So I just want to make sure everybody had a chance to take a look at the post-plugging report in Form 10 for item DF.
Was F put onto the website as well?
No, because it was within the 24 hours. It was less than the 24 hours. So it will be going up on the website as part of the final meeting minutes. That's why it was emailed out to everyone. Well, everyone meaning the commissioners.
Does the AG's office have any issues with the timing on this?
Is approving this an urgent matter for the commission, or could we move this agenda item to the next meeting?
Well, the item was on the agenda. This is what you fled. The only thing that wasn't sent to the commissioners ahead of time was just the supporting documentation. That's all. Just wanted to clarify that.
That doesn't sound like it's an issue, is it?
Since it was on the meeting agenda, I think there was proper sorry, this is Taylor Parmenter. I think there was proper public notice, so I think it's all right for the commission to move forward on that.
Very fine. Commissioners, did you all get that? And do you have any questions on any of A through F?
Well, Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Ballard. I've read through them and there are a lot of good reports. Since we seem to have kind of caught up on our time, I was going to show one of the photographs from 3DC if we have those readily available.
I do. 3D, is it, this is Wendy Flay, is this the right well, Mr. Ballard, 0010503?
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay, and you want to go down to the pictures?
Yes, and I just wanted to bring up to the attention of the commissioners the kind of things that that we're coming up against to try and get these wells down to TD, and it's really it's just a pair of boots. It's a little bit farther down.
Oh, not that one. Okay, that was a pair of boots.
Oh, that was boots?
Well, it was this one.
Oh no! These are boots that were downhole.
Okay, hold on. Oh yeah.
There you go. So, there's just everything in the world gets thrown down these holes. It's amazing. And after it's been down there sitting for a long time, it's really hard to get it out. It doesn't want to drill, and it's really hard to grab a hold of in any way. So I just wanted the commissioners to see that vivid picture of what the challenges are. And my only other comment was about the well we were just discussing, the 20033, which is item F that we were talking about. We don't really need to see any of the photographs, but the commission might want to, because that is actually the first well that we have used the alternate marking technique on. Although we saw a lot of good pictures of the technique in the last regular meeting when it was approved by the commission. But if you go a little farther down, it's toward the end when they're showing just when they're pretty much done. So that's the only difference is instead of sticking up in the ground, it's going to be lying flat and it's going to be a few feet down, so that any kind of agricultural activity or maybe other cultural activity will miss it. So this is what we're talking about as we've just standardized for a regular Form 9 approval of an alternate if it's necessary. And that's all I had.
This is Micah Spencer with Tetra Tech. Wendy, if you could go up one page.
Here?
Yeah. Yes. So this first picture here is why we would be using the subsurface marker. So Yuma has a lot of agricultural areas, and this well happened to be within one of those areas. And in the past, they had, I don't know what type of farm equipment they hit it with, But not only did it remove everything above surface, but it damaged our casing below the surface as well. And that's just an example of where we would be using that.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any comments or questions? Okay. Hearing none, we will move on to the next item of the agenda, item 4, Chairman Thorwald's report. 4A, discussion and update of state and federal rulemaking and legislation. I have nothing to report. We're going to be having our working session later this month. Commissioners, any comments or questions before I move on to item B?
Just a quick question. I was talking so much, I wasn't paying attention. Did we actually approve those Form 10s in Section D?
I thought we did, and there was a question afterwards.
No, we did not. This is Mr. Nations.
We did not?
There was no motion.
Okay, sorry, folks. We'll go back to 3D. We have a motion. Was that a motion from Commissioner Nations?
Yes, I make that a motion. I approve the application to plug the record of plugging of all the items in item D of the agenda.
Do we have a second?
This is Mike
Robin,
Conway. I
second.
second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We will now move on to 4B or 4A. Any questions or comments on 4A? Hearing none, we'll move to 4B, Arizona Oil Gas Rules Update Review and Discussion. As I mentioned a moment ago, we're going to be having our working session coming up. Is there any, I have nothing to report on that. Is there any discussion, comments?
This is Whit Default. I'd just like to confirm that the date that the commissioners had decided, or at least it is on hold for right now, for your second session is the 24th in the afternoon of October. Sorry, October 24th in the afternoon. And you should have all received a Google invite for that time frame. So if you have not, please let me know. But that was sent out last week.
Commissioners, does that still work for everyone?
Yes, that's okay with me.
Okay. I'm assuming, since I haven't heard anything from the other commissioners, it all works for everybody else.
Fire Robin is best I know now.
Okay. Commissioner Conway, Commissioner Ballard.
Yeah, this is Conway. I think it worked fine for me.
This is Ballard. Looks good.
Okay, good. Then we will move on to item 4C on the agenda. Carrie Smith, Sound Geothermal Corporation, will be making a presentation. Carrie has been doing this for many years, and has his company's been one of the major players in the United States doing open loop and closed loop geothermal work. And Carrie, do you want to just give a little background on yourself before you get started?
Sure. Thank you very much. This is Carrie Smith, and I'm with Sound Geothermal. I thank you for inviting me to come here today, and I hope, Frank, do I need to truncate this a little bit because of time?
We'll, if it, no, unless there's an issue from the AG's office about us running over, we'll just run over since we started late. Does the AG's office have any issues with us running late?
This is Taylor Parmenter. No, I don't have any issues with that.
Then we will just keep going until we're done today.
Okay. Chairman Thurgold was a little bit vague about what he wanted me to present. So I put together a hodgepodge of different things that we're working with. One of the things our company does is we work for various states on regulations and permitting and everything else that we've got to go through, and helping to resolve some of the conflicts that's coming up when we start to add geothermal to our regulatory portfolio in through there. Basically, I've got 26 years in oil and gas and 28 years in geothermal and ground source. I'm an AE fellow and founding member of the Grage Group, which is a consulting firm that handles a lot of higher level and more complex problems. I was the primary developer of what we're going to talk about as ambient temperature loops, and these are district systems. One of the things Frank mentioned about how do we employ this technology in cityscapes and so forth. I'm also chair of the IAPMO, which is the code making, the universal codes and mechanical codes, and my past chair of the Utah Geological Survey, and a past member of the DNR restructuring committee, where we went through and under the Levitt administration restructured what we needed to do with natural resources. And our primary focus is innovative, low, medium, and high temperature. So we start to look at how we can combine these things. That leads to the confusion that I'm going to bring up, through the basically the presentation. Next. Wendy, can you click on it?
I'm getting there. There you go.
There you go. So I have contact information there if you have any questions afterwards. Next. Basically, what we have to do is we have to recognize that the DOE comes back and has three different, if you will, categories of geothermal wells. We've got high temperature geothermal wells, and those are rock fluids above 302 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's mostly used for electric power generation, flash steam, so forth. And, it's pretty well isolated. It's hot rocks area of the world. You think of Yellowstone, you think of Reno, Nevada, and that Boise, Idaho, and everything would have high temperature. Next, we have medium temperature geothermal, which we technically kind of range between 190 degrees Fahrenheit and 302. And that's your hot pots and springs and boiling springs and so forth that you see. But we can use binary cycle power plants, ORC plants, and so forth to generate electricity at these temperatures. Anyway, but we can also use them as bleed-ins for your low temperature geothermal. And that means that what you do is if you need heat into the system, you regulate what you're giving a temperature through a heat exchanger and so forth, and maintain that. So it really expands this middle temperature. This is the most misused and unused asset we have. They're found in almost every state that we have in the union and throughout the world. So this is a resource that we don't use too much, and we need to find new uses for it. Then, of course, there's low temperature geothermal under 194. Those are used in direct heat applications and space heating, spas, agriculture, and source, but also in geothermal heat pumps. So the normal temperature of the ground, which ranges in the continental United States from about 45 degrees up to about 75 degrees Fahrenheit. We are able to use these assets. We can use these assets just about anywhere. So if you bring that into context, and next slide, please. Okay, one of the things we're going to talk about here is these district systems, because Frank wanted me to Chairman Thorwald wanted me to concentrate on how we can use this in Arizona in different ways. And we call this an ATL, which is an ambient temperature loop. It's a temperature that circulates, a closed loop system that circulates fluid at about 50 degrees to 95 degrees, and then it's used with geothermal heat pumps to boost the temperature, or it might be used direct. So in this ATLs, we have occasion we can use hot loops. And we're talking about the high temperature geothermal. The effluent from the processing plants and the geothermal plants becomes an asset to us, where we can turn on and take heat and use it into whether this is primarily used to heat in the wintertime and to make domestic hot water. The medium temperature assets are a little easier to use because the safety precautions that we have to have, and he said we again use closed loop systems that transfer the heat to that low temperature system and go for that. And of course, we have low temperature geothermal, which is open and closed loop ground source heat pumps, and I'll say some more about that. But if you have any questions, but we have a lot of low temperature springs, water floods, low temperature assets, the ground itself. As we look through, and just about any asset that is hydronically based, meaning fluid based, can be used on these wells. Next slide. This is the point where I came up and I said, okay, what's going to take to do this and how we're doing. We're currently working in Colorado, Utah, NYSERDA, in New York, Division of Water Rights in Massachusetts, and several other states to turn around and coordinate all of these regulatory issues, because now we have high temperature geothermal is definitely going to need some quarter pressure control and diversion control. Medium temperature needs diversion control. Low temperature on the other side can be active or passive and used in open loops, lakes, rivers, streams, and everything else. So you can see how this starts to span all the different regulatory agencies we have. So first of all, what we have to do is, what are the goals of the state? Energy development, carbon sequestration, more efficient resources, or any other goals, and any combination there. The second question that starts to come out is all geothermal a mineral right? In the state of Colorado, they're starting to treat the high temperature geothermal more on the oil and gas side because of the nature and the temperatures we're using. But we're also turning around and starting looking at recovery from abandoned oil wells, producing oil wells, water floods. We have a project in Pierce, Colorado, where we're using a high temperature 250-degree water flood to power an ORC plant, and then the effluent from the ORC plant is going to be used to help heat and cool the city. It's a small town, about 4,000 people that are in this area, and that is, by the way, in northeast Colorado, in the DJ Basin. The second thing we look is the mineral rights segregable from the land. In some states, minerals and the land go together. In a lot of states, like Utah, the mineral right can be segregated from the land, and we have to start looking at what regulatory issues that brings up. We have several types and ways we can move that heat. Hopefully this will make sense to non-technical people, but we have conductive, advective, and advective is the moving of fluid underground that may or may not be a high temperature fluid, and then convective extraction. We can use open loops and closed loops for the convective system. Okay, what states permit geological extraction? We don't. What state agencies? And the final thing, and actually what is turning out to be one of the bigger issues that we're seeing, does the Utilities Division of the Arizona Corporation Commission regulate private utilities for low and medium temperature geothermal heating and cooling? When you get into these district systems, we don't necessarily need a formal utility. But in Colorado, the geothermal regulation has been given to the PUC to turn around and build what we need in the structure, our rates and everything else. So now we have master limited partnerships that are coming in and starting to fund this, very similar to what happened in solar. look at. So there's some complications that are coming up now. Next slide. You know, this is taken right out of one of the regular documents. So I want to highlight the fact that all products of geothermal process embracing indigenous steam, hot water, and hot brines. Is that hot by definition from the DOE, or does that mean too warm to stick your hand in? What does hot mean? But these include things resulting from the water, fluids, or gas artificially induced into a geothermal. So that talks about, maybe gets into the realm of dry capture of heat. It means you do get into a deep, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then heat or other associated energy found in geothermal formations. Now with low temperature geothermal, that's the surface. Or it could be mid, where we've got a transient. I'm going to show you a transient example here later, where the source is actually deeper, but the production is from a shallow production, 500 to 600 feet. And then, you know, then it does exclude fossil fuels and helium gas. But anyway, next. Okay, for high temperature geothermal, let's talk about it for a bit. We got some pictures of some geothermal plants and stuff. I don't know exactly. I didn't have enough time to research the assets that Arizona has as we look at that. But basically, you know, we're talking about steam, we're talking about electricity. Next slide. In Utah, we have a project called the Ford Project, which is turned around, and the fundamental center of the Ford Project is we have some areas at about 8,000 feet in western Utah that it's dry fractured granite, but does not have any fluid in it that can be produced to have. We also have some steam production just a little bit to the south of that. But anyway, we started to look at, can we turn around and come up with a problem or a program and a method of being able to drill wells and interconnect the wells with fracking stuff and pump a clean fluid, because most of the geothermal fluids we get that are native are contaminated. They're contaminants, and they're high solids, CDS, and silica-based fluids. As we look through that, can we pump clean fluids through this, process them through the fracture, let the earth or heat them up, and then bring them out of the ground again as steam? And that is, you know, basically propagated some new technologies that we're starting to look at. So that was where the idea was originated. And Dr. John McLennan and I work. He's actually one of our partners, and stuff. Have worked with this thing on seeing how we can turn around and utilize these resources. But you know, the goal is to provide a pathway to commercial EGS development by reducing costs and improving drilling speeds. Next slide. This is the technology that is currently being used, and we have several examples in Nevada, and there's several drilling in Texas, some possibly in Colorado, and everything else. We're starting in permitting and looking at this. Basically, what you do is you drill multiple wells, just as I said. You frack between these wells in the hot formation, and you pump a fluid down and go through the geothermal and bring it up as high temperature geothermal to run a steam plant. And you can see that I've listed some of the key components. You know, this is oil and gas technology. So is it regulated by the oil and gas industry or the Oil and Gas Commission, or is it natural resources? You know, DEQ and water rights and so forth, because it's artificial. I would assume, based on that provision I showed you earlier from the state of Arizona, it would be under the Oil and Gas Commission. So anyway, they're artificial reservoirs, and we then run, we circulate a fluid, we generate electricity with that fluid. This is a closed loop system that basically the fluid never sees the light of day. With, you know, they just supplement the fluid that they have to with whatever losses they have done hole. And the interesting thing about this technology, Fervo and Forge technologies, they're instrumenting these to see what happens and what the reaction, because finding out what the volumetric heat capacity of the Earth and how long this thing becomes paramount. And there's not been a lot of research done at this time to turn around and actually calculate or be able to turn around and determine how much heat energy we can take. How long will the system last? 100 years or 1 year? We don't know as we go through that. Next slide. Well, and there's a secondary technology that has come up, and it's called Sage, is the main company that's promoting this. And again, they drill single wells into frac granite and expand the fracking quite a bit and stuff. And what they do is these wells breathe, and it's a single well that is typically used to pump fluid down. It's held for a certain period of time, it heats up, and then it's regurgitated back. And you can do one well system or two well system. It's kind of interesting to know whether or not we can really expand those granites and get any kind of storage capacity. So again, experimental technology that is being started to be tried to be implemented. They've got some proof of concept and they're doing it, but the question is, how long will it last? Again, volumetric heat capacity of a local reservoir. Next slide, please. Medium temperature geothermal. Okay, we're going to talk about that. It's really the most underused asset, as I said before. But what agencies are responsible for permitting and regulation? Is it direct use or indirect use? Is it a well? At this temperatures, they can be used, and the temperature could be extracted from the fluid, and then in one point discharged on a lake, river, stream, or they could be pumped into the reservoir to turn around and be recharged and recharged. So the question becomes water and water conservation, because this is typically a fluid that is more like fresh. It's a lot of it is potable. Is potable water, and we have alternate uses, obviously, for potable water, but we want to conserve that and monitor everything we can do to do that. So we can do pump and dump, we can do pump and reject, and then there's a new technology again coming out called closed loop advection device. It's basically a downhole heat exchanger. There's a small diagram in the corner that basically shows that the geothermal fluid in the earth never sees the light of day. There's a passive and conductive exchange with a basically tube and shell heat exchanger downhole, and then a second closed loop fluid is circulated to the surface, and it can be used in a medium temperature use, or it can be used in a low temperature use. Next slide. This is one you might be real interested, because the state of Utah has just do it. We just finished the report. It was about 280 pages long, and we had to finish in 90 days, so we were kind of up. But basically, there's some hot springs. The old prison site south of Salt Lake is about a mile square. They've moved the prison. The state wants to redevelop that land. It is basically the southeastern part of Salt Lake, right at the transition between the Utah Valley and the Salt Lake Valley. And that is a geothermally active area. And we have a small thing. So next slide. Anyway, the study overview is the feasibility of implementing a district-scale geothermal exchange system to heat and cool the future buildings and the 0.600 acre redevelopment site. Okay. And there's a website there where you can take a look at things. And the study considered a geothermal grid, which includes steam, a system of geothermal exchange pipe to tap the consistent temperature of the earth, both locally and from outside the boundaries of the area. So next slide. Okay, and we had right in that area. And this asset has been used for years. When the prison site, when the prison was located here, they used this geothermal asset to heat water at the prison and do some space heating. The effluent from the system was then sent to the Jordan River, which does increase the temperature of the river, by the way. But it was also used to grow flowers, tropical fish, and any other kind of agricultural, horticultural system that they could use down there. So they were using it and cascading these uses. And really, that's one of the ways to look at this system. Is this a multiple use resource? And what can we do with it? But the crystal hot springs, it shows you pictures there, got there. And that's coming out of the well is about 185 degrees. Next slide, please. Okay, then now we look at low temperature geothermal. What's that all about? Okay, well, it's basically ground source heat pumps, and it can use high, medium, or low temperature sources with it, depending on how you utilize it and bring it together. We have closed loop systems called boreholes, and we have to make a distinction between boreholes and wells, and we'll talk about it in a minute too, stuff. But a borehole is basically another system, and I've got a picture of it come back. We can do conductive, we can use warm boreholes, because that asset not only has the direct use of the well within the immediate range of the well, but the heat is transmitted to the ground around it, shallow surface. So what happens down in the southwest corner of this project and stuff, the ground temperature is elevated to about 90 degrees. Well, I can use this closed loop borehole system to recapture that heat and feed it directly into this ambient temperature district loop that we're talking about as we go through that. So again, it's a different issue. Now we're regulating the geothermal asset. We have the geothermal asset, actually its overflow, if you will, or the conductive area that it affects also becomes an asset. And stuff, and let's start to look and see about the different things we could do. Conductive is open loop applications. That's using rivers, lakes, and streams. They can be pump and re-inject, but usually they may be an irrigation well though, as with that, which is again utilized. It's a multiple use of the same resource. And then we have these advective systems like clad that I showed you about, which also apply to the low temperature. Next slide. Okay, you've probably all seen some sort of rendition to this of what a ground source heat pump system looks like. These are coils in the ground that circulate the water, and we use the native temperature of the earth, river, lake, stream, whatever they can be, multiple configurations and so forth. Which, anyway, next. Well, again, what this does, we want to consider who owns that resource. Is it the landowner? Or is it a mineral right? Who regulates the drilling? Right now in the state of Utah, most states, water rights does this shallow, low temperature work because we can use water wells, we can use boreholes and stuff. And I say a borehole is basically a tube in the ground, a drill hole with tube in the ground that grouted to surface, and it is a closed loop system. And we do make the distinction between borehole and well. Who regulates it? Because water rights regulates the wells, and in some states, the boreholes are regulated by a different agency. So it's depending on what happens and what kind of confusion ranges. And how does Arizona regulate low temperature private or utility energy distribution? We're back to the PUC or the PSC, whichever you have. As we look at that, who regulates how you distribute that and charge for it or use it? Anyway, next. This is a picture of a borehole. Just shows you what we have, so you know the difference between. You can see the pipe. It's usually high density polyethylene. Has a life of anywhere 50 to 1,000 years. It depends who you talk to, but the ground does not affect this. It's All the connections in it are usually factory fused and tested. But what it does do, and this is kind of interesting when we talk about volumetric heat capacity and well and how you use this system, we can charge that well immediately during the day. For example, we pump cooling energy coming out of a building down the well, and we can store it there and then use it at night. But then we have the far field and stuff where all that extra energy is being either leached from or given to back there that we can use seasonally. So we can start to look at varying how these things work. And by implementing this and creatively using it, we can extend the systems at a lower cost and they would be more efficient. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the ambient temperature loop I talked to you about to give you a concept of what we're doing. They're different formations. Basically, the blue lines in the middle are a large diameter pipe that pumps fluid around the system, and the buildings take fluid out, and you have other assets that are attached to it that can add heat or reject excess heat. We have two types. We have this hairpin, which would go down a steady street. In New York, we're using this perimeter block type arrangement where we actually dig and put that pipe in around the block. And then the nice thing about this is it's almost infinitely expandable. And I use that word loosely, but we could have multiple districts that are producing that are different characteristic, like a housing subdivision, a retail division, high office structure, high density office structure, and we can start to connect those and bleed the fluid back and forth between these and literally move a drop of water from the upper left all the way down to the lower right as we set this. This is a big advance. We piloted this technology in 2002 and have been working. I'll give you some examples of it. Next. Basically, what I want to show you, this is the ATL and how we're using it and the different ways, and you can see it. So please click. Okay, and these are the kind of things that can be attached to this versatile loop, and we have yet to find some downside to this, but we can look at PVT panels, that's solar generated thermal hot water. PV panels help run the pumps and so forth. It'll handle electric storage, air storage, ground source, any kind of system. Click, please. Okay, we can add ground loop heat exchangers, thermal storage. By the way, the borehole becomes this battery when we start to use this system. Instead of a source sink, it's a battery. And we can use the water source advantage. Click, please. We can turn around and we can help with generating electricity on this thing, or we can turn around and start to control this thing. We start to interact with this whole system, and we start to merge the electric grid with the thermal grid. The electric grid basically, because one of the things we want to conserve in the system is electricity. And we want to level load so that the power plants and the substations and the wires we have right now can handle this new electrification of the United States, is what we're seeing right now. And basically that was promoted through EVs as we look at electric vehicles. One click. But we can also add conventional assets to this and stuff. And like I said, we can bring it down and we can telecommunicate. Use both the electric grid and the thermal grid. Just to show you a couple of examples real quick, clicked on this. You want to see a high rise? Well, let's pick the Lotte Tower in Seoul, Korea as one of the projects that my partners have done and stuff. This was at one time the 7th largest building in the world, and it's huge. And all of the geothermal assets are actually in the footprint of the building. But it also uses water and wastewater. Again, different regulatory issues here to help take the power or take the energy or give the energy back to heat and cool the building. So it starts to merge even the wastewater grid with the electric and thermal grid. Another one we have is up in Colorado, Western Colorado. Click, please. Is Colorado Mesa University. It's been going on since 2007. We're now over 20, almost 25 years, into getting this program done. And we started out with a small commuter college that has merged into a 15,000 student live-in college. And then finally, we have another college that this is a retrofit where we're able to take the old conversion heating and cooling system, convert it to a geothermal system. It's about the same size of 3,000 tons of heating and cooling. So that's pretty much what I have for you.
Thank you very much, Carrie. Commissioners, do you have any questions, comments for Carrie?
Fire Robin, I do.
Go right ahead, Commissioner Firebrand.
I've been working on lithium brines for a decade, mostly in Nevada. Now, Nevada, of course, for a century has regulated pumping of groundwaters, doing the usual cycle, precipitation, measure precip runoff, water leaving the basin on streams, water leaving the basin, and interbasinal flow. And what's left is groundwater that you available for pumping out. So they put the limit on what everybody can pump out based on, what is recharged. And that is the limit they use for lithium brine production. I and a lot of other field guys have felt from geologic evidence that lithium brines are not part of that water cycle. And actually, in Nevada, they separate out geothermal from the regular groundwater cycle, recognizing that geothermal fluids come from the lower crust or mantle. They're totally different water cycle than the groundwater we pump. So Nevada treats those as separate. So I was on a project 2 years ago, actually had the opportunity to try and generate some from chemical analysis of waters, chemical evidence, not just geologist opinions, but chemical evidence that lithium brines are actually like geothermal fluids, are sourced deep in the crust or mantle, are completely different cycle than groundwater and should not be regulated as groundwater. I'll just point that out that, you talking about how you can, these different classes, you get to where you're dealing with on one geothermal, on another groundwater, but there's some simple and cheap chemical analyses of water that a hydrologist can help you with and actually give you evidence that some waters are not part of the groundwater cycle and should be regulated like geothermal fluids. I just wanted to point that out.
I think you're right. And that's why I brought up the regulatory issues. Who regulates that? And how do we do it? And how can we do it? Because really, the technology we're talking about ultimately using in this was those district loop systems and, heating and cooling buildings and so forth. And, we might throw in data centers and the quantities of water that they use and how they're handled. We have wells going dry because they're pumping, but your lithium brines are hydronic fluid. They contain heat. Heat is separate from all the rest of things. The ultimate use of that, other than the primary use for the extraction of lithium or whatever, the ultimate use is that can be used in conjunction with these regulatory or these systems we have for heating and cooling buildings or industrial processes or whatever have you. So again, it follows into the 3 temperature ranges and just what you do. The quality and quantity of water you have and how it's distributed is really a separate cycle completely. It doesn't matter because that fluid still contains heat. And heat is easily exchanged through a heat exchanger, so we don't contaminate the fluid on the other side. Did that help?
Oh, yeah, I just kind of wanted to bring up that point.
No, it's a good point. We walk over that stuff, and it just becomes a process because of that. Now that we're starting to see actually the oil and gas industry merge with the geothermal. Schlumberger has low temperature geothermal countries. A lot of the consulting groups, large consulting groups, are actually moving into this realm. And we're seeing a lot of oil and gas merger. And just last week, I got a call from the International Drillers Association, and they wanted to look at what was going to happen because IADC and API want to start regulating or putting out standards for this stuff. How do we segregate the standards from the low class small driller, that doesn't use a blowout preventer from the guy that turns around and has a rig and has to, or a well he's drilling has to have a blowout preventer. If the API says, oh, in all cases you've got to have BOPs, that really infringes on what you're doing. Now you're stepping into the water well industry, and that's why the purpose, I think, a planned procedure within the state to look at and start to coordinate these issues and sort them out and give the consumer an idea how he goes and navigates this labyrinth.
Thank you, Commissioner Farrell. Commissioners, any other commissioners have any questions? Any comments? Carrie, I have this is Chairman Thorwald. I have a couple questions for you. Data centers, cooling towers, these systems provide savings, water savings when using cooling. Well, let me rephrase that. For data centers, can you use these systems so you don't have to use so much water? And where cooling towers are in play, can you eliminate cooling towers?
The answer is yes, and that was one of the things at the point when we turned around and took a look at developing all these buildings with cooling tower or hydronic systems. We were able to save just about 45 million gallons of water a year by not using the towers. The towers become an escape, if you will. But instead of running them 2,000 hours a year to cool and stuff, we might run them 200 hours a year. So what you do is you find multiple uses for the heat and other ways to extract it or reject it. And of course, you're aware that Las Vegas has basically put out a rule against cooling towers. And we've got to bring that technology up because again, you're saving water, you're lowering the carbon emissions. This project in Salt Lake, we figure will take the equivalent of about 16,000 cars off the road a year.
Now, how does these
So,
systems
and all those things start to merge together. It's holistic, sir.
Okay. How do these costs compare to traditional systems like a 4-pipe system for cooling?
Okay. Well, the 4-pipe system, we come out about even. With the federal ITC and makers depreciation and everything else, this actually becomes the lowest cost system you can use, period. Lower cost than rooftops and stuff, and the most green system. I think we were 100 million pounds of carbon is what we were saving. And I have the report and I am sending you a copy.
Thank you. Also, my last question, and I believe you've mentioned this in the past and today, how easy is this to use with existing sewage systems?
Well, we've got a device out there called the Shark, and it attaches directly. And by the way, the fast stocks show facility in Denver, which is huge, runs entirely off of wastewater. And it heats and cools entirely off a 6-inch wastewater main. And that's a huge 1,700 ton facility. So we use that in any hydronic technology will mate together with this. It's how you use it and when you use it.
Last question I have, from the loop systems that you have or from the sewage systems, how far can you go out from those to cool a building, whether it be an office building or a home?
We have in Ely, Nevada, we have a program that the extension between the closed loop system and the building is 2 miles. The piping at Colorado Mesa University, which is a half square mile in the city, has 3.5 miles of piping in it. The point, if we did that full subdivision, will have 26 miles.
Thank you very much, commissioners. Any other questions for our guest?
This is Mike Howard. Just a comment. That was a great presentation. Thank you.
I thought it was pretty jumbled, but our chairman here, he kind of said, "Oh, I don't care."
Well,
he didn't say that. He said, "She just tell them what you know."
I wanted it to be pretty broad and to cover so many things, and you did a great job at that.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Commissioners, any other comments or questions for Carrie?
Yeah, Fire Robin. Now this will be available on the website for people to look at, correct?
Yes.
Yes, this is what you fled. This presentation, the next presentation will be part of the final meeting minutes and information that goes on the website within 3 days.
Perfect. Thank you. It was good.
Thank you, Carrie. Appreciate it.
All right, sir.
Next up,
can I listen in on the rest of the meeting? I'm
Absolutely.
interested.
Absolutely.
When you start talking about plugging wells, I'm wondering why you're plugging wells when it's down our source of heat, particularly the way they're concentrated. You know, that abandoned field we're going to use up in Pierce is going to be a real asset.
I've asked those questions myself. Brian Goatee is with the Geologic Survey, and he had presented in our last meeting geothermal potential here in Arizona, and we got a little short in time with him the last time. You have as much time as you want, Brian. Please proceed.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman Thorwald.
So Brian, this is what you fled. I made you co-host, so you should have sharing capabilities for your presentation.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, let's give this a try. You should see a blank screen.
Yes.
So then I'm gonna start my presentation. Do you see a split screen or a full screen?
Split screen.
Okay, I'm gonna change that. And you should see a full screen.
Full screen.
There it is. Perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
And thank you for the the previous presentation. That was great. I was all ears on that. I think your work just illustrates the potential that I think Arizona certainly does have, but also, you know, how the region has that potential as well. So the focus of this talk is to part 2 of this part 3 series to just talk about our resources in the subsurface and how we think about pore space at these depths and other synergistic components or dual use components in this space. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today as it relates to injection and production. And my crude outline, I have 6 slides that I wanted to focus on, and it's really, you know, I got the same kind of guidance from Chairman Thorwald as well, just like tell them what you know, which is great. So kind of give you our perspective at the Geological Survey and what our role is and how we see the future of geothermal evaluation and characterization and assessment towards developing a play fairway analysis. The map on the right, well, let me back up a second. I've got these bullet points on the left. This slide is just about the regional geothermal potential, and then I'll focus in on Arizona assessments and the workflow what that looks like, to just explain what these colorful maps are and what their limitations are as well. And also some of the geothermal data sets that we operate, maintain, and preserve as far as legacy goes. And then the concept of geothermal everywhere, because this talk will focus on more of a commercial application of geothermal. So that'd be EGS or AGS for electrons. And then what would the next steps look like in terms of funding opportunities or collaborations? The map on the right is probably familiar to many of you. The base map was generated by SMU back in 2012 to 2015. There's a few variants of this map, but it generally is a model of heat flow in the crust around 5 or 6 kilometers depth. So I put this up here because the next thing on the map are these the distribution of power plants. These are commercial plants in Nevada and Southern Cal, and one in New Mexico at the Lightning Dock site, and then of course southwestern Utah. The white boxes are these areas that the state's geological surveys and their collaborators have focused on for exploration and data collection. And this is really kind of a snapshot of 2010 or maybe 2008 to the present, and not times prior to that. Jim Witcher had focused on and talked about 1970s and 1980s and early 90s data collection programs. This is really from 2008 forward. And I mention that because these are the areas where action or activity is taking place. And I'll come back to that later. Okay. So the colorful map that you just saw on the previous slide, it's a model. So I just want to reiterate that, and then keep in mind that models are based on data, and they're not used as a sort of prospectivity map. I guess they could be, but you would probably be wrong if you ended up drilling in one of those red areas on the previous map, because it requires a lot more assessment. And I think from our perspective at the Geological Survey, it's about data, and collecting data, maintaining the data, evaluating data density and quality, all of those aspects going to these maps. And so I focused on just a slice of northeastern Arizona that shows some of the data that we have that's just geothermal specific. And so I'm just going to kind of, on the left, just not everything's displayed on the right. I don't expect you to see any kind of legend or understand what those points mean, but it emphasizes the need for data. And so that would include mapping, geologic maps, the 24K mapping that we do quite a bit of, and mineral mapping are critical to that. That includes like older epithermal deposits, like previous hydrothermal geothermal deposits, and tracking their evolution in the system to the modern day. Well and borehole data and wireline logs and other logs. Aqueous and isotope geochemistry is critical. Like you said about separating the upper crust groundwater and middle to upper crust non-drinking water sources. And those are easily distinguishable through aqueous geochemistry. The structural data sets are extremely important. I can't emphasize that enough. We have, Arizona's blessed with about 6 to 8 different orogenic events, mountain building events, or basin range, extensional events in the crust. So in these kinds of domains around 10 to 15,000 feet, you're going to see expressions of these overlapping fingerprints from previous orogenic events, and extracting those structural data sets and distinguishing them is really critical. And I think that requires some element of massive data collection and machine learning and AI to process that. Let's see, drone mapping. We've got a fleet of drones and different tools, LiDAR, magnetometers, and thermal cameras and other cameras that we use for detailed mapping along structural features like quaternary faults. We also maintain a new data set that we acquired through U of A. It's a legacy data set of, we don't even know what we have. It's somewhere in the order of several dozens of seismic lines throughout the state. We have the licensing for that. And so we'd like to, we've been using it for a while and we'll continue to use it for a long time. We also operate the broadband seismic network throughout the state. And so this is kind of important. It tells us where seismicity is occurring at what depths and along what structures. And then we've been maintaining our own suite of bottom hole temperatures and geochemical data sets left over from the National Geothermal Data Systems that we ran back in 2015. And then, of course, remote sensing and application of those with epithermal mapping is really a new tool. We've seen successes of that in southwestern Arizona, so that we definitely incorporate that into our workflow. And then core and cutting repository, we've brought those back online, at least the core repository. And so we are in charge of curating those assets for applicable use and access and availability to the public. The things we can't do, we would use third-party contractors. And so that would be things like, having an airplane and doing airborne aeromag, gravity, wireline logging, and new seismic, 2D seismic, preferably in this region. And some areas that we'll probably get into in terms of like acquiring or trying to find projects to pay for equipment, that would include 2-meter mapping, magnetotellurics, geodetic upgrade to the Geodesy in Arizona, and then airborne aeromag and gravity from drone-based tools. We'd like to expand in those areas. So it's a lot of data. I can't emphasize that enough, is you just have to go back to the basics and make sure that you fill in these data gaps and you understand them. This is a continuation of that. So once you have all of those data, you need to integrate it, and you need people to be a part of that integration process. The data scientists, aqueous geochemists, geophysicists, and geologists, and then use the ever-evolving AI and machine learning tool sets. And that would go into these fairway analysis and favorable structural settings, which is what FSS stands for. Those go into these models, and they take a while to complete, a couple of years for a big region. And a lot of assets go into developing a fairway analysis, which Arizona does not have, or at least we're not aware of any. And that's talking to all of our state partners and colleagues. So I think that's critical. We could really use that in some parts of the state where we know there's favorability and potential. And then, of course, modeling and simulation, is a really important part of utilizing the data sets to reduce risks associated with drilling and exploring these resources. So the example on the right is from Nevada, provided through one of Jim Fald's and his previous work for about 15 years of research and exploration in Nevada. I think in the last presentation, I gave a demo of the Arizona Subsurface Viewer. So this is a web-based tool that we rolled out a couple months ago. The URL is in the bottom left, and I can put that in the chat if need be. But this data set, we wanted to, you're looking at geothermal data sets here, and I'm going to pivot to that just briefly. So let's see if this actually works. And if it's too jumpy, just tell me to stop this. But you should see the same map, and this is, I'll probably fold in a comment with Wendy's overview of the oil and gas viewer, which I think is fantastic. I think it was really great. And so I just wanted to point out a couple of things. So these are bottom hole temperatures. A lot of these are duplicates, but when you look at data sets like these, you click on a point and it provides you data. And I would point out that if you get a chance, Wendy, on your viewer, try and put the source of information. where the data are from and sort of what the limitations are, because this is, in terms of geothermal data, there is a huge variety in the quality of the data the last time it was touched from a systematic perspective. And so these kinds of data sets are really difficult to quantify. So we try and identify the sources in all of these data sets so that the user understands what their limitations are.
Okay, I think we have that, but I'll double check with our GIS team because I think it was just way at the bottom. But thank you for pointing that out. And I do see Mr. Conway's name as a source, Commissioner Conway.
Oh, good. Yeah, and I think I looked at
Thank you, Brian.
the potash layer. That was a good example. I was like, oh, well,
Oh, okay.
where's that from? And it doesn't say, but so
Okay.
these web maps take a lot of time, a lot of love, and it's a multi-iterative process. But I'm really good. It looks like you guys have gotten off to a great start. And then I would add that one of the things that we're going to add here is of all the oil and gas wells, we have about 900 that we have, carefully compiled and reviewed the tops and bottoms for. And so the formation tops and bottoms, that's done for all of the 900 of the wells, oil and gas wells for the total collection. We wanted to do this because we see a potential to present it in a way that the users would find it easy to use and more friendly and compatible with multiple data sets like these web maps have. So we have a beta version. It's not published yet, but there's one oil and gas well. And so all of the data that come in here are put into this automatically made formation tops and bottoms and thickness. So we'll plan to add geothermal data to be plotted along this as well. And so this will be done for the 900 wells first, and then we'll come back and we have about maybe 10,000 water wells where we have this already available, but it's all in tabular format, so it's not easy to digest. So our goal is in the next month or two, we'll roll out the oil and gas well formation tops and bottoms first, and then we'll kind of go into the water well sector. And we do want to include other data like the geothermal first. So that is that's sort of an introduction, to our subsurface viewer in context to geothermal data. And a lot of this data is in large part thanks to Jim Witcher and his maps that he created in the late 70s and 80s. We've just been adding on to that in terms of the NGDS data, but not all of that data is on here. We only have 3 layers on here for geothermal. But in our projects, in our databases, we have over 30. So the problem is managing that data and getting it to a sort of digestible public format. Okay, let's see. Then just a quick overview in terms of like geothermal everywhere. This concept is, I feel like most of you have heard that, but when you look in terms of commercial production for electrons, we'd like to think EGS first and go down to the 5, 6, 7 kilometer realm. And in those realms, you're probably going to have some aspect of medium to high temperature geothermal everywhere. I think the potential is pretty clear from our perspective, based on the limited data for a non-oil and gas rich state. But based on the data that we do have, we have this range of temperatures up to 400 degrees C based on wells. And this is from a roughly 21,000 borehole temperatures. But most of that, about half of that, or about 30% of it are duplicates that have not been cleaned up. So that's kind of a little bit misleading, but that's the range in borehole temperatures. The gradient ranges, averages 25 to 85 C per kilometer, but up to 250. And we do have warm, hot, super hot springs in some places. We suspect most of those, the areas in between them are blind. And of course, a lot of thermal well data for medium and high temperatures. The heat flow used to create the SMU map on the left is the base map. We generally see 75 to 90 to 120 milliwatts per square meter. So that suggests or indicates favorability in many places, at least where the data are. And then the isotope and geothermometry, we've done those data programs back in the NGDS days. We've published those in our reports that are available in the repository. Those were quite favorable, and like you had mentioned, to distinguish those upper drinking waters from lower geothermal waters, that's a real thing. And I feel like we've got a good system for finding those. You just need to, collect water from those wells. But another application for plug, not plugged yet, but the plugged and abandoned well program could benefit from those temperature and geochemistry extractions before it's sealed off. And then in terms of the potential for the state, when you look at EGS, I wish I could show you where a map of EGS and AGS or medium high temperature sources are, but we don't have one, and we haven't seen one to date. These favorability maps are great, but you really cannot use them for any kind of siting. For example, this red splotch over here, southeast of Kingdom, east of Big Sandy, there's no data in here for that. It's based on a modeling of using gravity and aeromag and resistivity data, and it's just not enough. There's no direct measurements of this heat flow in here. So again, take it with a grain of salt, but they're useful, but only enough towards a new data program.
Ryan?
Yes.
Chairman Thorold, may I interrupt you for a moment?
Yes, please.
When I was talking earlier on in previous meetings about downhole measurements before plugging wells, part of what my thinking was, if we were able to do that and have the measure salinity, temperature, movement, that kind of thing, that could help with this type of thing throughout the state. Is that the kind of thing that is needed? I mean, if, for instance, every well had, or not every well, but every well in a cluster had a measuring device like that, how much benefit would that be to the state and to being able to characterize the state's potential better?
Well, some of these data go back to the 60s, 50s, and 60s and 70s, and in some cases it just seems unbelievable. So I would say validation of those historical data sets would be really key. That's a huge value, just to validate what you're seeing in terms of historical data. And then, of course, the technology's changed, so you could compartmentalize the way you collect from a well. We don't have that ability. You need to hire a contractor for wireline logging, but those costs are really, I'd say, cost effective for what you get out of that. I mean, as a scientist, I'm not going to say no. You want more data, or at least to validate the data sets that you have. So any opportunity where you can go to a planned abandoned well and see, oh, there is no temperature data, or there is no TDS data, then I think it would be valuable to go in there and collect that data before it's abandoned. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Okay. The next slide is the last slide here. In terms of next steps, when as a geological survey, we want to collaborate, right? We want to, we're limited in what we can do. We're really good at collecting data and sort of analyzing the data and doing the science about environments favorable for EGS and conventional geothermal. We're good at that, and but we're not a company. We're not a private company that has a lot of capital to really invest in an area. So we do need support. We need collaboration. And the figure on the right is an example of a collaboration between Southern California Research Center, New Mexico Energy Power Research Institute, and ourselves. And we applied for the Geothermal Technologies Office, NOFO, to do a basic data collection program. And so we focus on this part of the state, even though there's potential in northeastern Arizona as well, and many other parts in between these blocks. You know, with only so much money, you do have to kind of pick and choose, but there's plenty of other potential in between these areas. Nonetheless, we could pull them in and we could focus and we say, okay, we do have legacy seismic here. That's a low cost, almost no cost approach. But we don't have AirMag, so let's contract third party and go with that. Oh, California Resource Center, they actually have data, so we'd collaborate with them. And so I think the collaborations are really important to you know, synergize these broad regions and collect new data, validate older data, and start thinking about a model that explains what you're looking at. Because we don't have a model for Arizona. And so just to give you an example, the Zanskar, you know, lightning duct site, having just drilled that most productive geothermal well in the world, their model, that pre-existing model prior to that well, was not conventional. And so that raises the question of like, well, what are we doing wrong? Because I wouldn't say that was accidental. They were very successful at applying good technology like magnetotellurics and passive seismic with AI to develop what they developed. And so I think that region deserves another look that's a little different than the look that was given into it in the 1970s and 80s, and even in the GDS days in the mid 2015. So again, back to collaboration, I think working with DWR and DEQ and oil and gas and the governor's office is key. The utilities are key. You can't work and collaborate without them in these areas. And of course, matchmaking industry with their interest and the state's interest is also really key. And academia definitely has a really a good place where it can contribute to certain parts of these programs, and there's always others. So on the executive order that was rolled out a few weeks ago, you know, we see that the you know, the focus and interest in geothermal and small nuclear is, you know, we see that. And so I'd say that at this point, while we're waiting to hear back from our proposal to the Geothermal Technology Office, we're still in this phase of just conditioning our data sets because we see opportunity in the industry that we've been talking to. They see opportunity. So I think there's going to be an opportunity to continue to collect new data and develop a play fairway analysis for the state, or at least for certain regions of the state. And so that's kind of, I feel like from the Geological Survey's perspective, our next steps is involve these three components, or at least two of them. So with that, thank you very much. I'm always happy to present.
Brian, thank you very much. Commissioners, questions, comments for Brian? I'm surprised nobody has any questions for you. I thought that was very good. I have a question. Can we do this a third time?
Oh, and the part three?
Yes.
Yeah, I think part three is oil and gas opportunities.
Yes.
Well, our next, this is Wendy Flood. Next meeting, Brian, is November 21st. So I'll be reaching out.
Okay, great. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you. Commissioners, are you sure there's no questions for our speaker?
Well, this is Commissioner Ballard. Sometimes there's too many questions. I found it very, very good update, and I'm kind of surprised actually with the diversity of the data sets that you're utilizing. It's obviously the way to go. I just, yeah, kind of overwhelmed. Glad you've got, you know, legacy seismic data, such as things like that will be key to creating your fairways.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Ballard.
This is Mike Conway. Brian, that was a great presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
Wendy, do we have a link on the website to their data as well?
On the oil and gas website, to like the items that like Brian was showing?
Yes.
I believe we have a link to the website just in general, but not any of the specific. I don't think we have the specifics of like what he was showing today.
I think it would be good to have one directly to that as well.
Okay, so Brian, if you could follow up with me on the best way of making that happen, that would be great.
Okay, great. Yeah, anything you need, and I did put the link to the website you're referring to is the subsurface viewer. Is that correct?
Yeah. Don't put that in the chat because that doesn't get saved. If you could just follow up with me after the meeting, and I'll get that to the commissioners, please.
Okay. Yes, I can do that.
Okay. And to answer your question, Chairman Thorold, I'm on the website right now. And yes, Arizona Geological Survey, there is a link to their general website. So I can work with Brian on trying to make that a little bit more specific, as well as the ongoing updating process of our own GIS viewer as well.
Fantastic. Commissioners, any other questions before we move on to the next agenda item? Hearing none, we will move on to item 5 on the agenda, call to the public. Is there anybody in the public that would like to address the commission? Hearing none, we will move on to agenda item 6, request for future agenda items. Commissioners, is there anything you would like to see on the agenda in the future? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 7, announcements. Again, I would like to thank both of our speakers, Carrie Smith and Brian Cote, for their great presentations. And again, thank you. Is there any announcements we need to make?
This would define, I would just say that at the next meeting for the agenda, if Brian is available, we could have him come back, and then hopefully I will have that kind of tutorial video for the updated website.
Wonderful. Is there anything else? In that case, we will move on to agenda item 8, adjournment. It is 12:02 p.m. and this meeting of the Arizona Oil and Gas Conservation Commission is adjourned. Thank you all for attending.
And thank you again for your flexibility at the beginning of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Take care.